Show Mike Goodpasser. I'd like to welcome in, subbing in for Sam Teets, 1981 national champion. He subbed in that game too. Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if I can fill Sam's shoes or not. I'm not quite the statistical aficionado that he is, but I have my opinions as usual.
Well,
and I've got my Los Angeles Clippers or Chargers.
Whatever. All right. Manscaped.com, promo code TGT20 to get 20% off your first purchase and free shipping. So you can fill Sam's shoes because you've got balls and you can shave them. And if you wanted to, Steve, Manscaped's the way to go.
Well, I've been thinking about that. If I'm sitting here with you promoting Manscaped, I don't have a Manscaped. Why aren't they sending me one?
Well, they sent me and Sam one.
Well, they haven't sent me one. And,
Well, they said they were going to send the popular kids one.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I was wondering how long we'd get into the morning before you'd start tearing me a new.
Oh, yeah. We know. You'll never say anything negative towards me, though. Tonight, the Los Angeles Chargers will battle the Las Vegas Raiders. It still sounds stupid to say the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a huge game for the Raiders, Steve. I think it's a big game for the Chargers if you're Anthony Lynn, because I think his job's on the line the last 4 games of this season. And with the Raiders, a win tonight, they're a game back, or they've got a chance to beat Miami next week, which would give them tiebreakers with Miami. If Las Vegas wants to make the playoffs this year, they have to win this game tonight.
Yeah, I think here, and I think Lynn's in a lot more trouble than people are letting on. If you listen to the local media out here, they're pretty well calling for his head with the Chargers. Although the general perception in L.A. is they think the Chargers should just go back to San Diego. They'd be just as happy with that if they did that too. But I think what you've got here is in the last couple of weeks, 2 programs going kind of a little bit in different directions. Chargers have shown some spark to life the last couple of weeks. Some statistical numbers have been turning around for them a little bit. And the Raiders have faced a tough spot in their schedule and pretty well been drilled. I think the weakness of their running game or lack of the ability to stop a running game has come through for the Raiders. And I don't know if it's worthy for them to bother getting in the playoffs or not, because everybody's going to gear right toward the Raiders and just run all over them. Heck, even the Colts did last week with a rookie running back, gained 150 yards. Colts are going to do that. Now, granted, Colts got a very good offensive line, but still, teams are just running all over the Raiders, and they seem to be drifting and losing a lot of their momentum right now. So it is a critical win for the Raiders. Probably means more to the Raiders than the Chargers.
Well, definitely means more for this season. And when you look at it, Cleveland Farrell's out, Nicholas Moreau's out, Damon Arnett is out, Jonathan Abram is out with a concussion. That's 4 starters on the Raiders defense.
Right.
And, you've already got rookie wide receiver Henry Ruggs on the reserve COVID-19 list. So 4 of the Raiders' first round draft picks over the last 2 years will be unavailable tonight in Las Vegas. And if they want to keep these flagging playoff hopes alive, you got Josh Jacobs, who was that 5th first rounder. I believe he's going to try to play tonight, but he has an injured right ankle. And I think that's where a lot of these problems have come with the Raiders, are the lack of Josh Jacobs in the running game because he's been hurt.
Injury, and Gruden himself said, we got to get people healthy to get them to play. And I don't know if they've got enough time to let people heal or not. I did look statistically at a few things, and one of the things that popped out in my mind was holding on to the ball. The Raiders have had 11 turnovers in their last 36 possessions. Is that attributable to having to go and fill in spots with people where the continuity is just not there for Los Angeles or Las Vegas? Yeah, you're right. It is. I want to say Oakland. Yeah,
I know. I want to say Oakland, but Los Angeles comes out, but it's really Las Vegas, which is really confusing for me. So when you look at this,
again, to address the 11 turnovers in the last 36 possessions, that's damn near 1/3 of the time you're going to touching the ball. You're giving it up. You're not going to win football games in the NFL doing that.
And I think a lot of that is not having Josh Jacobs. It puts more pressure on Derek Carr, who you don't have Henry Ruggs, so you don't have a deep threat. You're stuck with basically Derek Carr throwing the ball to tight end Darren Waller constantly. after a while, people pick up on that. And the Chargers, they won last week 20-17, but it was over a Falcons team that I think is pretty much packed it in. The week before that, they were beaten to within an inch of their lives by the New England Patriots, 45-0 at home. So I think what we've seen is maybe some regression from Justin Herbert as the seasons went on. That may just be because the team's going in the tank. But this is a team where we talked about Anthony Lynn. I think the only way Anthony Lynn saves his job is to win these last 4 games. They're all divisional games. And if he does that, and they're sitting at 7-9, that means Justin Herbert's probably the rookie of the year, and Anthony Lynn probably saves his job. But I think that's the only way he saves his job, Steve.
Yeah, well, I historically, that's not a good chance of happening because the Chargers have lost 9 straight against AFC West teams. And I believe the Raiders are in the AFC West, are they not? Yes, they are.
Yeah, and it's hard to win divisional games. I mean, when you play a team twice every year, you get to know each other a little bit more, and it causes more close games. At close games, who knows? And tonight, I think you've already brought up the most important thing, and that's the turnovers. And the big thing here is, can Derek Carr stop his turnover problem? And against the Colts, Derek Carr in the first half played great football. What you had him throw a costly interception when they could have taken the lead, and the game kind of spiraled out of control after that. He has got to take care of the ball against the Chargers, because with a team that maybe doesn't have a lot to play for in the Chargers, if you give them an early spark with an early turnover and they get an early lead, then you've really got your hands full if you're Vegas.
Yeah, I guess the question I'd ask myself, or I'd look at this team is, are the Raiders ready for the playoffs right now? What I'm seeing in Derek Carr is he a quarterback? Because he's pretty well heralded and highly regarded as a quarterback, and I think he moves the chains well when things are going good for the Raiders. But he doesn't seem to be that kind of player who can pick up and carry a team maybe for a game or a little bit longer on his own shoulders. And of course I'm comparing him to the GOAT, Brady. But Brady, and we kind of alluded to this last week about Brady never having the receivers and teammates for a duration of time that Manning had. Carr's going through that same kind of thing right now where he's losing players to injury and things like that, but he's not seem to be able to pick up and carry this team on his own arm. And then Gruden, again, the same thing with Gruden. Lauded is one of the greatest offensive minds in football in the game right now, and I'm not seeing a lot of spark and a lot of uniqueness or fantasy coming out of the Raiders offense very much. It's just kind of stoically going through the motions, it seems like, with the Vegas Raiders right now.
Well, I think the reason you get that is because you don't have the players to be dynamic right now. I mean, you're missing Josh Jacobs. You don't really have a deep threat. This team is a year away, which I think me and Sam have talked about all year. Next year, I expect the Raiders to be a playoff team. This year, I don't think they are. I think they're running on fumes right now. That's why if you're betting this game tonight, I thought about it. Bobby Sheridan report keeps trying to get me to bet on the Raiders. But I don't know about this, because when I look at it, I mean, with the turnover issues, their divisional opponents, I think the last 3 times they played, the Raiders have won, but they've all been close games. So I don't know. I think this game is actually a toss-up. And for the Chargers to win, I think that this needs to be a big game by Austin Eckler. And, they felt confident letting Melvin Gordon go over the offseason because of Eckler, who they gave a 4-year, $24.5 million deal. However, he's had a tough 2020 season while dealing with a hamstring injury. He's yet to reach 100 yards in any game this season. And I would say this. I would say for them to win this game, I think Austin Eckler has to run for 100 or more yards.
Okay.
So you got to be able to run the ball.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to stop the run too. And the Raiders have not shown any proficiency in stopping the run.
Well, it's stopping the run and being able to run the ball. And right now with Josh Jacobs, they're not able to run the ball either. You got an old rotary phone, Steve?
No, I just set that tone on. I'm sorry. I forgot to put it on silent. There you go.
I missed that sound. Don't you remember when you used to have to stand in the kitchen, the only place you had a phone, and stand there and talk to whoever you were talking to? Because it shortened conversations that way.
Then when you want to talk to your girlfriend for an hour and a half, your family always got pissed at you.
Yeah, I know. But when we look at this, Raiders-Chargers tonight, Steve, who do you like? What's your score?
I'm going to go with the Raiders to win this game. I still think they have enough left in their tank to pull this off. I still think that the Chargers are still reeling. Herbert really hasn't. He's shown some flashes of brilliance, but no consistency. His deep threat ball still has not evolved to where it needs to where the Raiders can or the Chargers can make some plays. And I look at that number of 9 straight losses against divisional opponents by the Chargers. I think it's going to go to 10 tonight. So I don't know where Bobby's picking, but
Bobby's taking the Raiders, and
I'm going to go with Bobby. And Bobby's a genius on this kind of stuff. So, see, I'm not as dumb as you think I am. I didn't know where Bobby stood, but if Bobby says the Raiders, I'm going with the Raiders.
Well, I'm going with the Raiders just because I just think the Chargers have packed it in also. I do think an early turnover, though, and everything changes dramatically in this game. I think you're going to see something like 30-23, 30-24 Raiders. All right, let's go ahead.
I'd be surprised if that many points are put on the board simply because both these teams are prone to turnovers.
Yeah, but prone to turnovers will lead to a high-scoring game sometimes.
Yeah, defensively, you're touche. Yeah.
So, I mean, you might have 30-24 and each team account for 10 points on defense.
Exactly. Good say. So I'm going to pick the Raiders. Make sure Sam notes that so I don't lose to you by half a game this week.
Hey, we don't know what Sam's picked so far, so Sam's going to start off a game back if he doesn't chime in and let us know who he's picked.
Sam's a follower. He's going to follow somebody right across the stage and get his diploma this weekend.
Ain't that how you're supposed to do it?
I didn't go to my graduation.
Oh, did you graduate, Steve?
Yes, I graduated.
I'm just making sure. You said you didn't go.
Yeah, I got some postgraduate credits.
Just some?
Yeah, I had to take classes.
Well, you won the national championship. That counts as postgraduate credits when you're trying to get a job, right?
It probably counted more than having postgraduate classes.
Probably counted more than having a degree. All right.
Probably did. Yeah, touche.
All right.
Well said.
Let's talk about the best and worst potential NFL coach openings. I think there's 9 here that we're going to look at. And we've got the Chicago Bears. Now, I think the Bears could still run the table, make it into the playoffs. And, Matt Nagy keeps his job. But I don't think that's going to happen. And it's clear that Ryan Pace and all the moves he's made since 2018, including picking Mitchell Trubisky over guys like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, has not really worked out. I think when you look at the pros of this team, I think there is core talent. But I think the cons are lack of cap space. They don't have a long-term quarterback. And as you said a couple weeks ago or maybe last week, Khalil Mack has not been what he was that first year when the Bears went to the playoffs. I don't think this is that great of a job because I think for a great job, you got to have a long-term quarterback and you got to have some cap space.
Well, I think the Bears, first off, got to decide what direction they're going to go with quarterback. Now you got Foles and you've got Trubisky. For some silly reason, I like Trubisky. I don't think he's probably going to win you a Super Bowl, but I like him as a quarterback. I think if I was the Bears and if I'm going to stay true to Trubisky as my quarterback, I would be finding a coach and would be interviewing that coach on how do you plan to use Trubisky? Because they've wrapped a lot of money up into him. He's got a big contract with them. He's they used a high draft pick to get him. And I just think that Trubisky hasn't been used right. I don't know what right is because I'm not an NFL coach. That'd be better left for you to explain. But I don't get the impression Trubisky's been used right.
I think this. Trubisky is not any good. He's never going to be any good. And if the next guy continues with Mitchell Trubisky as the quarterback, he will get fired because of it too. I think Trubisky is a slightly below average quarterback. I think he has footwork issues. I don't think he can make every throw on the field. I think that's the issue with Trubisky. I think it's time for the Bears to look for a quarterback. And the thing is this, Steve, you can like the guy, but when you say he can't win you a Super Bowl, the fact that you traded up to the second pick in a draft and you passed up a guy on Patrick Mahomes who's already won a Super Bowl and a guy like Deshaun Watson, who if you had him 2 years ago, you might have won a Super Bowl. That's an issue because if you're getting picked in the second pick of the draft, You got to win a Super Bowl to not be a bust, I think.
Yeah, but I I don't think anybody foresaw Mahomes being Mahomes when he was drafted.
Yeah, but you know what?
But you're right. They did pass on him.
But the Bears are the only team that thought Mitchell Trubisky would be a great quarterback. So that's my problem. And my biggest problem with them is not taking Deshaun Watson, because I don't knock him for Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes had issues coming out of college. They got fixed in a year. He sat and got coached up a little bit by Andy Reid, Jeff Christensen, who's his private quarterbacks coach. So those guys did a great job with him. And let's face it, if Patrick Mahomes goes to Chicago, Patrick Mahomes may look like Mitchell Trubisky right now.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's just according to where you went. All right, let's go. Stay in the NFC North. We're going to go to Detroit Lions. The pros here, you've got a quarterback in Matt Stafford. The cons are lack of cap space and core talent. Now, when you look at this, the Lions can either have cap space or they can have Matthew Stafford. But unless they want to hand their veteran quarterback a new deal, they can't have both. They have $1.2 million in cap space in 2021 and are locked into deals for two disappointing free agents and Trey Flowers, an offensive tackle. I think they have Vavatola. I can't pronounce his name. But the recent drafts have been bad. And one of the few stars in the organization that developed is Kenny Golladay. I think this, if you come in, the question if you're the coach is, and the new GM, do you keep Matt Stafford or do you trade Matt Stafford? And I think this, I really think Matt Stafford's really good. If I'm the Indianapolis Colts or the Chicago Bears, I'm all over trying to get Matthew Stafford. But if I'm the Detroit Lions, I've got to get him out of there, because if they keep him, they're going to have a lack of cap space. They don't have core talent. Matthew Stafford's in his early 30s. You've only got so much time with Matthew Stafford where you can make this work. So I think a new coach needs to come in. You probably need to get rid of Matthew Stafford, and you're probably not going to find a guy as good as him, but maybe you could start to rebuild the core talent here.
Yeah, I was going to say it till you brought it up first. I think Matt Stafford would look very good in a Colts uniform. I think that he would be a good piece of glue for the Colts right now, because let's face it, as good a year as Rivers is having, I don't think he can play another year. I'd be shocked if the Colts invested into him in another year. So they're going to be in the market for a quarterback, as are all teams. I think it's a really tough thing, Mike, and you know too, but much better than I do, that getting that quarterback is an integral part of building any football team. And they have one in Matt Stafford. I mean, a tested, proven star quarterback in the NFL who is started and shine bright because he's on such a crap team. I think that the Lions will have to sacrifice another head coach before they get relevant again. I think that whoever they bring in next will be a sacrificial lamb to continue to build the Lions team back to respectability, and most likely lose his job in doing it. And then the second coach coming in will probably see a lot of the glory. So I don't see the Lions' job, other than if you just want to be an NFL head coach. Other than that, I don't see it being a long-term job for anybody that comes in there, because the Lions have so much work to do at other key positions. I don't think that another coach can survive getting him there and making him viable.
All right, next up, we've got the Denver Broncos, which I think is a very interesting team. They're sitting at 5-8 right now. John Elway, I think, is the problem here. He's not been able to get the quarterback. This is not the head coach's fault. This is on John Elway. But John Elway is God in Denver, Colorado. Nobody's going to touch John Elway. And the Broncos have added a lot of good players around Drew Lock. Drew Lock has been uneven, inconsistent, but this is the team that right now have $25.5 million in cap room. They could free up another $40 million by cutting veteran defenders like Von Miller, Jarrell Casey, and A.J. Boye. So the thing here is, it's according if you want to go with Drew Lock or not. I don't think John Elway will. I think he's going to try to look somewhere else again. I don't think this is a good job just because John Elway is the guy looking for a quarterback. And if I'm a head coach, I stay the hell away from John Elway like the plague. But the problem is, if they could nail a quarterback, there is the talent there. But I would stay as far away from John Elway and the Denver Broncos as I could if I thought I was a good football coach.
Yeah, I think that John Elway's another one of those examples, kind of I talk about in the NBA, why great players don't necessarily make great coaches. Guys like Magic Johnson and Jordan and Bird, for that matter, although Bird did take his team to the NBA Finals one year. I think that these guys have such high expectations of themselves that they try and meld that expectation down to and mold somebody in their own mold, and it's just not doable. Both of us would agree John Elway is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, probably the greatest competitor quarterback in terms of just marching downfield and getting crucial points for you. But he's not been able to translate that into another quarterback, and I think he's trying too hard to do that and trying to make it happen too quickly. But I think Denver is only a few pieces away. The problem is they're aging. Like you said, Von Miller and those guys are getting old waiting. But I think Denver's not as far off as a lot of the other openings that are probably going to happen if the Denver opening even occurs. I think, and they've got some cap space. I don't have the same thought process in Drew Lock that you do. I think you got to give the guys some confidence, give them some time, and I'd get Elway out of his hair and get a coach in there that can develop a young quarterback. And this is a case where Gruden might be a good example of somebody who's got a good reputation.
Hey, he doesn't. I mean, the John Gruden thing is made up bullshit.
Well, Gruden's not going anywhere.
Hey, look at it like this, Steve. Look how long Gruden was in Tampa Bay. He won the Super Bowl at the start of his tenure. After that, the reason he failed is he never could get a quarterback. And
he won the Super Bowl on Dungy's team, didn't he? Wasn't that Dungy's team?
Yeah, but Dungy couldn't win the Super Bowl with that team. So you got to give
Gruden came in and did it, yeah.
Yeah. So when I look at it, my issue is John Gruden, the only quarterback he had that really did anything was Rich Gannon, who was in his mid-30s when he got him.
Yeah.
So I don't think he really did anything there. Next up, a team I want to look at is the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Eagles, I think different coaches will see Carson Wentz as either a positive or a negative. They play in a very easy division, but they do have lack of cap space. And this is one where the quarterback is a pro and a con. The other pro is they have a stable ownership that'll let you do what you want. But this is a team that after they won the Super Bowl, this roster now, a few years later, is seriously flawed. And you got guys you got to get out of here. You got to make a determination on Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. I think, though, overall, this is a pretty good job because I think Carson Wentz, you improve the offensive line, maybe bring in a different kind of offense. I think Carson Wentz could flourish. And I'll tell you what, this is the thing. If I'm the Indianapolis Colts, I know I brought up Matt Stafford, but I would make a huge play to get Carson Wentz reunited with Frank Reich.
Yeah, the big problem with Carson Wentz, because Wentz and Reich have history together already. He would fit into the Colts offense probably. Reich would have the least amount of trouble integrating him into the Colts offense. I thought the same thing. I'm afraid that the Steelers or the Eagles are going to lose faith and give up on Wentz and trade him away. I think that would be a huge mistake for that franchise. I think Carson Wentz's big problem that I see is he can't stay healthy. This is probably the first season he's gone that I can remember in 2 or 3 or 4 years where he's not been hurt at some point in time. Wentz has made other quarterbacks like Nick Foles famous simply by just getting injured at critical times in the season. But I like Carson Wentz a lot. I'm afraid the way the talk is that they're looking at possibly trading him, see what they can get for him. To me, the Eagles are a situation that happens with a lot of one-time Super Bowl winners. A lot of their guys go after the money after they get the ring. So I've got my ring now. Now I'm going to go find money. And they defect from the team. It's very rare that you see players want to stay together like the Pats did and say, hey, let's not win 1, let's win 6. Let's have 6 rings instead of that. So I think the Eagles just fell into that. I think they're in a big rebuilding era. Players are starting to get old there too. But I think giving up on Carson Wentz right now would be a huge mistake for them.
All right, next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is a good job because the Jaguars owner, Khan, is a guy who has given Gus Bradley and Doug Marrone a combined 9 years at the coaching helm. I think this is a job where if you take it, he's going to give you 3 years, which gives you a chance to build it. You're going to get either the number 1 or the number 2 pick in the draft. And I think this all of a sudden could become the best job out there if all of a sudden the Jets were to win a game and the Jaguars get the first pick, because if you put Trevor Lawrence here, I think it could be turned around quick. And the other thing is Jacksonville has extra first round this year, an extra second round this year from Rams and Vikings trades, and more than $78 million in cap space to spend this offseason. So I think when you look at that, the core talent is not there, but you have a high draft pick, you have patient ownership, and you have cap space. I think this is an all right job.
Yeah, I think the big concern about the Jacksonville Jaguars right now is where they play. I mean, the AFC South is coming. Tennessee is a bona fide team. The Colts are a quarterback away from being a team that would become in Super Bowl mention with their young offensive line. If the Colts can keep their receivers healthy, their defense is strong. I mean, Houston is not playing to the potential of that team due to injuries.
Yeah, they are. They're terrible.
I think they're terrible because of coaching, though, not because of talent. Deshaun Jackson.
They were terrible because of a bad GM who got rid of all the talent.
Right,
The
but they have the talent.
It's
easy to find a GM. Okay, all right. Well,
they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, they got rid of most of the really good players. The other problem in Houston is J.J. Watt's not getting any younger.
No,
but it's a good job, which we'll talk about in a minute, just because.
Right. But I think the biggest problem for taking the Jacksonville job is just the fact you're going to be playing in the AFC South. And I know the joke has been on the AFC South that 500 teams make the playoffs out of there in years past. But I think right now that's a pretty tough division to get through in the AFC right now, simply because Tennessee and Indianapolis are dominating that at this point in time. And both those teams, I mean, Tannehill's got a few years left in him, plenty of years, actually, at quarterback. Henry's not going anywhere. They're well coached and a good team. Colts are well coached and a good team. And I think it's not going to take a lot to rebuild Houston. And so go to Jacksonville, you're going to be in a dogfight in your divisional games to get into the playoffs almost every game.
Well, the way I look at this is this, Steve. Derrick Henry is an abusive runner when he runs, much like Earl Campbell was. So the question there is, how long will he last? Those kind of running backs don't last that long. The Colts still don't have a quarterback. The Texans, we don't know who their coach is going to be. And the Jaguars, I think this is opened up. If they do things the right way, they'll win. They probably won't. But let's talk about teams that don't do it the right way. Are the Jets a good job? You've got a path to Trevor Lawrence. You've got cap space. You got low expectations. The cons are there's no talent there, and their ownership is terrible. Are the Jets a good job if Trevor Lawrence is the first pick?
Well, I mean, are they giving up on Darnett, or Sam?
Sam Darnold? Well, they have to if they can get Trevor Lawrence.
Well, if you can get Trevor Lawrence, well, I guess they're going to have the number 1 pick.
Unless they screw up and win a game. So.
Screw up and win a game, yeah. They'll screw up and win 2 games, and then Jacksonville will get him. So,
which would be great for Trevor Lawrence.
It's a little nicer climate down there and a little less media scrutiny there. I think the Jets are so far away from being competitive. I don't know that if I was a young head coach coming in, I don't know that I'd want my first job to be the Jets, because you're doomed to fail. And if I was a seasoned coach looking to establish somewhere and stay home or stay there for a few years, I don't think the Jets are that job. I think much like Detroit, you're going to go through 2 or 3 coaches before the Jets are even a playoff contender at this point in time. Trevor Lawrence, he might make some difference, but I think that team's so weak all around him that he's just going to get the crap beat out of him like Sam did. So.
All right. Next up, the Houston Texans. They have Deshaun Watson. The cons are everything else. The Texans are $12.7 million over the projected salary cap for 2021 already. And many of the deals that former coach GM Bill O'Brien and front office executive Jack Easterby negotiated were significantly over market value and contained 2021 guarantees, making it difficult for the organization to rebuild the roster. Now, You still got an owner in McNair, though. If you get a good GM in there and a good coach, you've got Deshaun Watson. I think this is one of the best possible jobs out there just because you have a franchise quarterback who's still really young.
Definitely. I agree there. I think that Houston's just still in the same boat that Jacksonville's in. They're playing in the AFC South. It's going to be hard to make movement from either Jacksonville or Houston on Tennessee or Indianapolis right now. You're right. Colts are going to need to find a quarterback to stay in that loft with Tennessee. But I believe the Colts have a good salary cap room and can afford a quarterback. They could afford Stafford or Wentz if they needed to, and that's just going to put more strain on Houston and Jacksonville. The only downside I see, I think the ownership's there for Houston. He'll spend the money if they can get a good GM to rework contracts and get some cap space, fill some voids that they lost this past year. I think Houston can come quick. I think they're going to lose J.J. Watt. I mean, J.J. Watt doesn't even play on critical downs that much anymore. I was looking for him a game I was watching them play the other day, and he's on the sideline, and I'm thinking, man, this is a game where I would want J.J. Watt in the game at this point in time, at least threatening with his playability. But I think his skills have dropped to the point to where they're probably overpaying him and probably need to be thinking about cutting him loose pretty soon and get some salary cap money out of him. But those are tough decisions that a GM and ownership are going to have to make. If J.J. Watt is perennial man of the year candidate, he's a great pillar to the organization and ties it to Houston well. He's a good thing to have on your franchise for all the other reasons. And he was a great football player, but I think he's dropping. But Houston, to me, is in that same boat as Jacksonville. You go take that job, it's a dogfight. You better get a coach who's young, innovative, and has got a strong stomach, because you're going to be facing a lot of battles in the AFC South.
All right, next up, the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost choked to death there on air. This, to me, is a good job. You got a young quarterback. You got a young core. You got low expectations. The division in which they play is the only drawback. But this is a team on defense that, if Derwin James is healthy, I think he's the best safety in football. If Joey Bosa is healthy, he is probably the second best defensive end in his own household, which makes him the second best defensive end in the NFL behind his brother Nick. And I think with this team, there's a lot of talent. The only drawback I see is they're probably going to have to replace 4 offensive linemen next year. But when you look at him, you got Keenan Allen, one of the top 3 receivers in the NFL. I think this is a good job. Probably. I don't know. Being in LA with the Chargers, I don't know that it's ever going to work out, just because I don't think they should be in LA. But I would say, from looking at this from a coach's perspective, I've got a young quarterback that a lot of people think can get it done. And I've got one of the 2 or 3 best pass rushers on defense, and I've got the best safety on defense. There's a lot here to build with.
Yeah, I think the Chargers will end up being maybe the most sought-after job by coaches this year, wanting to come here. Because I think, as you said, I'm not going to repeat it, but I think a lot of the tools are already in place for the Chargers. Just a shift in coaching, probably a shift in attitude will make a difference here. They've got a beautiful new stadium. It's perfect weather out here pretty much year-round. It gets hot in the summer, but they don't play in the NFL in the summer. You know, it's going to be 75, 77 degrees out here today, not a cloud in the sky. So the weather out here is great. I think you're going to be able to attract players.
Why are you wearing a hoodie?
Well, right now it's about 52 here. We got, kind of in the desert.
All
Hey,
right.
Bobby's getting rained on in the Inland Empire right now. So,
All right. How about this?
20 miles away.
I think the best job to have would be Cincinnati if Mike Brown wasn't the owner, because you'd have Joe Burrow. But I think it turns into the worst job just because you've got Mike Brown.
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think as long as the Brown family owns that team, they're going to waller. And if they get to mediocre, they'd be good.
Yeah, they're going to be like the Colts were under Irsay until the sun took over.
And that's too bad for Burrows. That's really too bad that he's a guy that has the moxie and potential that he does. And what we saw of him before he got injured was maybe the ability to lead the Bengals to some respectability. But I just think that as long as the Brown family is in control of that football organization, I'm absolutely amazed that Cincinnati, you Bengals fans, have stayed behind that team.
We haven't.
You have, not because of the team, but because of the ownership of that team.
Well, yeah, because the ownership's disgusting.
But, well, I don't know them personally, but they, like I said, it's been in the mid '80s since they put a really good product on the field.
Well, no, they put a good product on the field. They made the playoffs 5 years in a row. That was a good product, but the thing was, they didn't do enough. I mean, I think people really underestimate the job Marvin Lewis did in Cincinnati with what he was given the leeway to be able to do. I think Marvin did about as much as anybody could have here, and that's a damn shame. All right, tomorrow, Steve, at 1 o'clock, me and you are going to pick the games. We might invite somebody else, I don't know who yet, to pick the games with us, but that'll be at 1 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. You can follow Steve Risley at srisley34. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. So you're ready to pick the games tomorrow. And, hey, right now, unless we hear from Teets, he's already going to be a game behind if we get tonight right.
Yeah, Sam, if you're listening at all, you better call in and make your pick.
Well, you don't have to call in even. He could just write them down and send them to us. I don't care.
Let's just pick the Chargers for him.
No, because what if we're wrong?
Then he wins and we lose, yeah.
How about that? What is picked? Did he pick a tie?
Yeah, he picked a tie. He gets half point either way.
Yeah, but we'll get a whole point. But then again, if we're wrong,
we lose
a half point. Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you go to Rockfed.
Why don't you call your boy Sheridan and get Sheridan on for a day?
Well, we'll see. He probably heard you ask that right now. Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley.
Sheridan, join us a one-time visit by Bobby Sheridan of the famous Sheridan Report. And we'll get him picking games for us right now and see if he can pick up some business with his picking and humor us.
Because Risley, you believe you can beat him, so tomorrow's the chance.
I can't beat Bobby Sheridan.
Well, I'm telling you this, Bobby, you need to come on because I won't beat you. And we'll pick him with the point spreads too. But I'll do anything to get an extra guest. I'm such a whore. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Speaking of whores, if you like whores, make sure you use manscaped.com. Promo code TGT20 for 20% off your first purchase and free shipping. So for now, for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching to The Grueling Truth.